All right, what is up, everybody? We are back with another edition of Everyday Hoops. Hope you guys are having a good one. Today, we're doing the actual breakdown of the Luka Doncic trade. Still doesn't even feel real to say that, but Luka Doncic trade. I made a video yesterday in the late night, kind of just like the first reaction, just thoughts going through my head. But now that I'm actually calm now and all this stuff, we're gonna do an actual breakdown and my actual thoughts on the trade here in today's video. Thank you guys for the views on the videos and the shorts recently. I really appreciate it. If you do like the content around here, consider subscribing, liking, turn notifications, do all stuff like that. I'd really appreciate it. Really upset a lot. So I Twitter and all that stuff down in the description below. And yeah, don't waste any more of your time. Let's get right into it. So we got the trade that broke the internet and broke the sports world. It's still kind of breaking the sports world even the next day, because probably the biggest trade we've seen, not only in NBA history, maybe in sports history, the biggest move we've ever seen, and the most just out of nowhere, no one even could have fathomed this was actually real and happened. Literally, NBA 2K like trade going down in real life. Insane. So the full details of the trade are: the Lakers are getting Luka Doncic, Maxi Kleber, Markieff Morris. The Dallas Mavericks getting Anthony Davis, Max Christie, and the 2029 first in the Lakers. And the Jazz come in and get Jalen Hood-Schifino in 2 seconds, one from the Clippers, one from the Mavericks, both in 2025. That's the full breakdown of the trade. But yeah, so many things have been said now since this trade has happened. A lot of reports and all that stuff. When I first made my first video, talk about like what and everything, not really much was breaking yet or anything like that. And like the full story didn't come out, but now we have the full story. Now we have everything. And now that I've kind of got my thoughts together, we're gonna talk about it. So apparently, this is all the Dallas Mavericks is doing. At first, when the trade first happened, I thought in my head the only possible way that this can actually make sense in my head is that Luka went into the front office and said, "Trade me to the Lakers. I don't want to be here anymore." But since then, we found that the Mavericks were the ones that actually initiated the deal. Luka Doncic was blindsided by this trade. Literally nobody in the world knew besides the two teams, the Mavericks GM Nico Harrison and the Lakers are the only people that knew. And then I guess Danny Ainge came in at the end to get the second round picks and kind of help facilitate this trade. But that's it. None of the players knew. Nobody knew that this trade was going down. And the Mavericks were the ones that actually approached the Lakers in this deal and said, "Hey, how do y'all feel about Luka Doncic?" Which is wild to me, but that's what happened. Apparently, with the Dallas Mavericks, with Nico Harrison and them, the Mavericks lost faith in Luka Doncic being their franchise player. There's a lot of stuff talking about Luka. Basically, the Mavericks kind of dogging Luka out so far throughout this whole process. You know, a lot of talks about his injury concerns, which he's injured. I don't know when he's gonna come back. He's been hurt since Christmas, and he's always had these calf problems. You know, there's one, his commitment to conditioning. They were really concerned about his commitment to conditioning. Apparently, there's reports that saying he was, I don't know if he is now, but he's up to 270 pounds at one point throughout the season, and they just don't think they could take his conditioning seriously at all. And just kind of lost faith in him being their franchise player and their building block. Which is wild to say, but I guess that's what they felt like. He also is going to be up for a 5-year, I want to say $350 million supermax extension coming into this offseason, and the Mavs were not willing to pay that to someone that they had this much concerns with. And that's all what the Mavericks say. Now, for me personally, I think this is probably the most like thinking too far ahead, overthinking move ever done. Yes, maybe you do have concerns about his conditioning. We do know that Luka has had problems. There's been times where Luka has looked, not the greatest, not healthy. There's been a lot of injury problems with Luka. He has had injury problems. He has had concerns about his weight and all that stuff. But hey, we say all those things about he might have injury problems, might have concerns. You want to know how many points? You want to know what Luka did last year and what Luka has done in his career, despite us knowing that he has had all of these injuries and all of these concerns. Let me just pull Luka Doncic basketball reference up. Let's see. Last year he gave you 28, 8 and 8 with 2 steals. Oh no, that's this year, obviously. Last year he led the league in scoring, 34 points per game, 9 rebounds, almost 10 assists and a steal. The year before that, finished third in MVP. The year before that, 32, 8 and 8, finished top 10 in MVP. The year before that, 28, 9 and 8, top 5 in MVP. The year before that, 27, 8, and 8, top 6 in MVP. The year before that, 28, 9, and 8, top 5 in MVP. So we talk about these injury concerns. We talk about all this conditioning stuff with Luka. Hey, for his career, he averages 28, 8, and 8, and has finished in the top 10 in MVP voting every year of his career besides his rookie year. And has made All NBA first team every single year of his career besides his rookie season. So, if y'all had all these concerns and y'all had all this stuff about them, why, like, then why pay him after the first extension? Why pay him after his rookie deal then? Why pay him after his rookie deal? Why make him the franchise player? Because this can't be something that just happened right away, that happened this year. This has to have been something that just has been continuously building and building and building and building. And if you saw this when he was a young player, when he was 21, 22 years old, and you saw this, why don't you try to either nip it in the bud then, A, or two, not trade him then? Don't even get attached to him as a franchise player at that point. If you already had concerns and problems about his conditioning and about all this stuff and about his commitment, if he had commitment problems, all this stuff, why not do that then? Why wait until now? It's tough. Also, Nico Harrison coming out and talk about, you know, defense wins. We believe defense wins championship. We believe defense, kind of dogging out Luka's defense when y'all aren't that far away from being a top 10 defense out of Luka Doncic. Last year, y'all were a top 10 defense with Luka Doncic. And you think our problem is defense, so let's trade our best player. Let's trade our best offensive player, one of the best offensive players in the league. Let's trade the guy that literally without him, we aren't even in this position to talk about defense wins championships. Like, it's insane. It still doesn't make sense for me for the Dallas Mavericks side with everything that's been talked about. Um, it literally just feels like overthinking to the 10th power. Like overthinking, and it genuinely does feel like the Mavericks GM did not like Luka, like personally did not like Luka Doncic. That's what it feels like. Like it literally feels like the Mavericks GM said, "I just don't like him at all. I need to get rid of him." Like that's the only. That's literally what it feels like. It feels like Nico Harrison said, basically middle finger to Luka Doncic, get him out of here. You know. And also, even the blindsidedness, like didn't even talk to Luka. Luka found out when we did. Everybody found out when we did, and not even fielding around the NBA is the biggest problem with this. It's not even fielding around to anybody else. Literally, they went directly to the Lakers because Nico Harrison loves Anthony Davis. Apparently, went right to the Lakers and said, "Hey, how do y'all feel about getting Luka Doncic?" Imagine being the Lakers in that situation, and Nico Harrison walks up to you and says, "Hey, how do y'all feel about Luka Doncic?" You'd be like, stop talking to me, man. Like, don't even try to do this right now." Like look at like it feels like the Lakers literally just got gifted, hand wrapped, in a present, gifted in his lap. Here's Luka Doncic. Here is one of the greatest players in the NBA, and is going to end up one of the top 20 greatest players of all time. At 26 years old, at 25 years old, about to be 26 years old, in his prime. Here you go. You can have him. Take him. It's all yours. Like that's literally what it feels like. It is so insane. And not even fielding around the NBA, like not even opening up to NBA. Like their package they got back: Anthony Davis, Max Christie, 2029 first. Anthony Davis is a great player, top 10 player when he's really on it. Max Christie's a solid role player, 2029 first round pick. Cool. Do you know how much teams would have given you if you would have said if you would have said Luka Doncic is available? Do you know how many teams would have opened up their checkbook, literally the equivalent of giving you a blank check and saying, "Here, what do you write a number down?" Like you could have got so much. You could have got at least 5 first round picks. At least 4 or 5 first round picks and their top young under 23 years old type player. And some more. And some more veteran pieces, sure, if you still wanted to compete a little bit this season. I do know how much teams would have ruined their entire futures. And how much teams would have ruined their entire ruined everything just for the chance to get Luka Doncic on their roster. Do you know how much the Rockets the Spurs. Like, do you know you could go through every single team in the NBA and what what they could ask you and what they would say they would give you for Luka Doncic probably maybe could have been better than this move. Than Anthony Davis, Max Corsi, and a 2029 first. That right now, that 2029 first just lost so much value in 2 seconds. Because now, by 2029, in 4 years, Luka is still going to be on the Lakers in 4 years. So Lakers are going to give Luka the extension. You know, he cannot get a supermax anymore, but he's still going to get a pretty nice contract. Lakers are going to give him an extension. So in 2029, Luka's going to be on the Lakers. And they've shown, and you know at first hand with the Mavericks, that with Luka on your team, you're at least going to be a playoff team, playing team. There's only 1 year y'all didn't make the playoffs when Luka was a star, and that was 2 years ago when he was hurt and Kyrie was hurt. Like, Luka by himself is guaranteed a 40-something win team. So now you go from that 2029 first is probably going to be what? The 17th to 25th type of pick. Not even thinking if the Lakers do get another guy next to Luka, and all of a sudden the Lakers are a top 3, top 5 team in the West, and they're a championship team. So that pick's gonna be dang near like not valuable anymore, and you're gonna have to really do your crazy draft work to find a gem of a player at 27, 28 overall. Like it's crazy that the Mavericks went in silence, didn't even tell anybody. Went to the Lakers directly and said, how y'all feel about Luka Doncic? I love AD. Let's make it happen. Like insane, man. Just so insane how I said in my first video, but I kind of feel it. Nico Harrison might have just ruined the Dallas Mavericks organization. He might have just ruined it in terms of your championship, the championship window. Y'all were just in. By the way, y'all were just in the NBA Finals last year. Y'all were in the NBA Finals. Y'all were a couple wins away from being NBA champions. And now you decide Luka's not the building block of your future? Now? After he just carried you to maybe not carried, but led you to an NBA Finals appearance last year as the best player, the shot over Rudy Gobert, beat the number 1 seed OKC Thunder, beat the Timberwolves in 5 games, took a game from the Boston Celtics who dominated the NBA last year. Now y'all decide he's not a franchise player? It doesn't make sense. Literally, I feel there has to be more, right? There has to be more, something deeper happen, or maybe this Luka Doncic injury and stuff is so much worse than possible. I just don't, I just don't get it. Like, the championship window for the Mavericks has kind of closed now, a little bit, because if you have Luka Doncic, you know how great Luka Doncic is. The championship window is going to be until he gets to like 38 years old, 39 years old, 40. Like, you probably had a cool another 8 years, 8 to 10 years of trying to build a championship roster around Luka Doncic and at least being a competent enough team to be in a playoff situation. You know, like, you know how many chances you would have, and you know how many chances you would have with Luka Doncic. It's like a quarterback in the NFL. Like, do you know how many chances the Ravens are gonna have with Lamar Jackson? You know how many chances the Chiefs are gonna have with Patrick Mahomes? You know how many chances the Bengals are gonna have with Joe? You know how many chances they're gonna have just because they have that player on the roster and how good they are? That's what the Mavericks with Luka. You know, do you know why the Bucks have a chance every year and have a puncher's chance? Because they have Giannis. You know why the Nuggets have a punching chance? Because they have Nikola Jokic. You had a punching chance because as long as you have Luka Doncic on your roster, you're gonna have at least a shot. At least, even if it's a 1% shot, it's a shot. And you never know what's gonna happen in the league. 1, 2 things can go right for you, and all of a sudden you're in the NBA Finals, just like last year. Now, without Luka Doncic, you have a team of Kyrie Irving, Anthony Davis, which is not a bad team at all. You know, and I'm also not saying this to say Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis is a very good player. Like, obviously, like, that's probably the best in terms of talent. That is probably the best player you're going to get back for Luka Doncic, which was that the right move? Maybe not. You have Kyrie and AD now as your duo. You definitely could get back to the playoff situation right now, win some games, maybe win a series. But I'm not picking you over OKC. Against Memphis, maybe. Against Denver, maybe. But if you had Luka, the Mavericks with Luka Doncic were number 2, and if it wasn't OKC, it was going to be Dallas. Like, it was those two. That was my conference finals, in my opinion. Without Luka, They still could have a shot to make it there, but it just but also your championship window is closed. You got to think about it. Let me just look really quick at some of the ages of these guys. I went to the wrong thing. Ooh, I'm sorry. It's just a lot. Okay. Kyrie Irving is 32 years old. Klay Thompson is 34 years old. Anthony Davis, I think, is what? I want to say 32 years, 32, 33, 31 years old. 31 years old, about to be 32 by the end of the season. So you mean to tell me that your top two players are both 32 years old? Kyrie Irving has a player option also by the end of the year. That's a whole nother conversation. Because what does Kyrie feel about this now? Does Kyrie feel like, dang, like I was here for Luka? I mean, I love AD. We're cool, but are me and AD, are we a championship team? Like I might opt out and look around my options to see if there's another championship level team. Because at this point, I'm trying to win a championship. Like Kyrie and AD as your top two players at both 32 years old with Kyrie on expiring deal, like it's just like literally y'all only have maybe a year or two to win a championship now. Like you have this year, and if Kyrie opts in next year, like that's the only years you have left to win a championship. Because Anthony Davis also isn't on a crazy long. Anthony Davis only has maybe like 2 years left on his deal, so you'll probably only have two, at the most 3 years, to compete for a championship. Like your window just went from here to here in a span of like instead of 24 hours. Y'all went from a team that had probably multiple chances to win a championship to now you only have maybe one or two shots at this. And it's just insane. Now, finally, we'll talk about the Lakers. I talked, 15 minutes about the Mavericks. If you're the Lakers, this is probably the best possible scenario that could have happened to the future of the Lakers. When you think about, we all knew LeBron and AD, this window was kind of closing up really quick. We all know LeBron James is not going to be around for much longer, maybe another year potentially, but LeBron's not going to be around for much longer. You already aren't good enough right now to win a championship, even though they're Anahashi, they're playing well, but realistically, they're not a championship contending team. And everything, all the talk for the past couple years has been about what's next. What's next? After LeBron leaves, what's next? We're just gonna have Anthony Davis and Austin Reeves and just a bunch of dudes on this team. Like, is Anthony Davis good enough, like, to by himself bring you to another level of a team? Like, y'all gonna need another star? What's gonna happen? And it's just like that. The Lakers have completely switched their kind of window. They completely flipped their window. They completely flipped the future of this team from going to when LeBron leaves, things are going to be rough for another couple years. Kind of like when Kobe was on his last couple of runs, when it was just Kobe and a bunch of young dudes. Like that's what it was just going to be a team with Anthony Davis and a bunch of just dudes, and we're just going to try to see if we can maybe make a play-in spot. Maybe we trade Anthony Davis and rebuild this. No, well you traded Anthony Davis, but now you have Luka Doncic on your roster. You're gifted in your hands, in the palm of your hands, Luka Doncic. And now it's completely flipped the window. Now y'all all about the future. Now, just like the Mavericks were supposed to, you know how many shots you're gonna have now at being great and being the future of the league? You'll have Luka Doncic now. Now you have Luka at 25, about to be 26 years old. You know how many shots you have now to build a competitive championship roster around Luka Doncic if you're the Lakers, and especially because you're the Lakers, you have already that star of, being the Lakers. You know how many players are gonna maybe want to go now? They're like Luka in LA. Sign me up. Give me that minimum. I'll be there. You know, it's insane how much they're kind of the whole perception of Lakers have just flipped from being this team where it's like, man, I don't know what's the future could get ugly to now it's like, oh shoot, we got Luka now. We're good for the next 10 years. Just insane. Now, a lot of talk about LeBron, what's going to happen there. I saw a report by Chris Haynes right before this that LeBron intends to stay on the Lakers for the rest of the season. But there's definitely some things about maybe do you trade LeBron as well? Because now you have Luka. This is not a move for this season. I feel like this is not a move for this year. They're not a championship contender right now, even with Luka Doncic and LeBron James, which doesn't sound that sounds so fake. Luka and LeBron on the same team just sounds so like not even real. Um, but you have Luka and LeBron on your roster. The rest of the roster is not great. You don't have a big man, all this stuff. Luka's still hurt. We don't even know when Luka's coming back. If Luka even comes back this year, who knows what's going on there. But this for the rest of the year, I feel like you just rock out, see what happens. You make the playoffs, cool. You win a playoff game or two, that's cool. Whatever. After this year, first you got to figure out what's going on with LeBron. Are you staying another year? Are you, which probably you're gonna stay another year? Do you want to be here? Like what's gonna happen there? And now you have a full kind of off season after this with Luka Doncic to be like, okay, we have Luka now, we have LeBron James, and now we have a 2031 first round pick. We have all this stuff. Now let's build for the future. Well, let's build this team out. Like this year, I'm not expecting the Lakers to go out and win a championship this year. Like that's not. I'm not expecting that at all. But after this year, they're gonna have a full off season and a full many years now to try and put the pieces together to build a team around Luka Doncic. Like insane stuff. And I guess the Jazz are here too. The Jazz, Danny Ainge walks in. It's like literally walking into a room. It's like imagine how Danny Ainge felt getting a phone call and be like, "Hey, y'all want Jalen Shafino, couple second round picks to help facilitate this trade?" And he's like, "Oh yeah. What's the trade gonna be? Oh, we're getting Luka, huh? Like I thought you were like what? Like they got the call and they thought they're facilitating maybe like a Zach LaVine trade at the most. Maybe they're getting Vucevic. Like all right, cool. Like well, okay." And then they got the report. And then they were on the call and said, "All right, you're getting Luka," and then what? You're getting who? Like it's just imagine being Danny Ainge on that call and you realize you're in the Luka Doncic trade. And you're like, I'm sorry, what? What are we talking about here? Like just blindside the NBA. And yeah, man. I feel like the only way this works out for Dallas in the end is if Luka has some serious problems where it's like Luka can barely ever play again. Like, I feel like that's the only way the Mavericks have been winning this, or somehow they go on a crazy run this year and make it back to the finals and somehow win a championship another year or two with Kyrie and AD as your top two. And if that happens, hey, shout out to them, I guess. Cool, but like I just don't see a world where the Mavericks end up in even another year or two, and they look back and be like, I still feel good about this. Like, I don't see a world where Nico Harrison in 2 or 3 years looks back and says, I would do that trade over again. Like, I just don't see a world where that happens. Wow, man. It's just, it still doesn't even feel real to me. It still doesn't feel real. The only way it's going to feel real is when we see Luka suit up in LA and we see AD suit up in Dallas. That's when it's going to feel really real. But it still feels like I'm talking about a 2K trade. Like, it still feels like I'm talking about, like, a mock trade on Fanspo. Like it's just this is just it's crazy, man. Ridiculous stuff. But yeah, it's gonna be it for today. Hope you guys enjoyed. Once again, if you do like the content around here, consider subscribing, liking, turn notifications, do all stuff like that. I'd really appreciate it. It really helps out a lot. Link to my Twitter and all that stuff down in the description again, like I said. And yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow.